Lalitha, a warm welcome to
Lalitha
Sacred
to Lalitha.
Vibration. So nice to have you here. Really, really nice. We've been friends on Facebook for a long time, but
And
this is our
Instagram,
first
yes.
real meeting.
Yeah,
Thank you so
so
much. Yeah, I'm very excited.
will you like to just tell the people who you are and what you are doing? A little bit short introduction first.
Sure. I'm Lalitha Donatella Riback, and I've been on this spiritual path forever, probably before you were born, so for 30 years. And I have two children. They're boys in their 30s now, their early 30s. And primarily, I am a seeker, right? Like most spiritual people, I've been searching and searching. I was very dissatisfied until I met Dr. Pillai, who's my main teacher. But I've also studied Ayurveda with Dr. Deepak Chopra and Dr. David Simon, and there were two points of reference for me spiritually, and also, for the Ayurvedic path of healing, etc., and holistic medicine. But then I specialized in Vedic astrology. So my yogic teachings, I loved the Bhagavad Gita, I loved the Yoga Sutras, but I felt that people were not really receiving the message in a way that's modern and that's available. So I felt that yoga alone was not doing it. So I went to India and I went deeper into these sciences. And through Vedic astrology, I realized that was the best methodology for me. And I started to see huge changes in my clients and family, and also myself, of course, right? Because we have to try ourselves. So I did start a business called Shrim Lab, because I think people should try rather than receiving just teachings that are like in a foreign language, like Sanskrit is a perfect language, right? But reading a sutra sometimes it's not a direct vehicle for modern people or for Westerners especially, right? Because we don't use Sanskrit. I wish we did. So perhaps I want to use a microphone. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
No
I
problem.
forgot. Okay, so the point is the Vedic astrology can change your life. So I just started through that methodology. But in 2007, I met Dr. Pillai through his videos, and that changed my life for the better. So different level of success, I felt more confident. I felt that everything was shifting quickly, so we don't need to wait. And one of his core teachings is, and because both of you, right, have studied with them, is waiting is a waste of time. Now, there's nothing better for modern people, right? Because we want everything super fast and we don't want to wait for anything. And so that really was a great wake-up call for me, because 30 years of studies and I still was struggling. I didn't know how to package my teachings in one methodology. So I find that he is the one who changed my destiny. And I feel everybody should come across his teachings. I have a certification as a 200% life coach now, in addition to being a multi-certified Vedic astrologer with a BA in Vedic sciences and arts. So that's my path, pretty much, yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
So much, yeah.
Can we just start with, for those who are not yet familiar with Vedic astrology, like what is the difference of astrology in the Western concept and Vedic astrology?
Well, I respect all astrologers because I know that we all want to know the future, but I find there's a huge difference with Vedic astrology, because Vedic astrology is considered a science in India by the Supreme Court. Now it's become a real science. You can get a PhD in it. And I was always interested since 2004. It's been a science. So around the time I decided to be a Vedic astrologer, that was really interesting to know that. And I've been teaching master classes with famous scientists who practice Vedic astrology. So I know there's got to be something, right? But I didn't need the faith, because I don't think it's a belief system. But I found that it works, and it works without failing. Like if you have somebody's birth chart, if you have their time of birth, and their birth date. That's it. You don't need anything. So you don't need to analyze. In my case, I'm not a psychologist, even though I studied psychology for 12 years. I do have a major in child psychology, but I don't consider myself a psychologist. And I find that you know how to help someone who is struggling, say, for example, they need a job, or they want to start a business, or they have a relationship problems, and we have all been there. So with the Vedic method, you can really give them the help they need. So the advice they need, and using time shaktis. So Vedic astrology is different because it has the 27 nakshatras, 27 constellations, not just the 12 signs and the various planets. We also have Rahu and Ketu, that are lunar nodes, that are very powerful, and they're karmic nodes. And you can see the path of this person in this life, and also where they're coming from. So what they were experts in, like Ketu, for example, the principle of Ketu is a spiritual node that shows your past, where you've become an expert in past lives, and now you want to change it. Your soul needs a new experience. So I find that's very different. And also we use what I love about Vedic astrology, that I cannot repeat enough, and I repeat it forever ad infinitum, that you can look at the planets in the sky as they are, and that's what Vedic astrology shows you. So you don't need convoluted calculations to figure it out. And the signs have remained as they were originally. So for example, a modern Leo may be a Cancer, actually in real life, and then he doesn't recognize, or she doesn't recognize herself in the Leo personality, expression, self-expression. And actually a Cancerian can show you, yes, this person is a very loving person, very sensitive, very intuitive, wants to help, is a psychiatrist or a nurse or a mom, right? So a totally different energy. Then the sun sign, Leo, which is extroverted, self-confident, very kind of bossy, but also very much into leadership, kind of into success, etc. Right? Like a king. A mom versus a king, right?
Energies.
Huge difference. So I find it works much better for me.
So like the difference is based on, so Vedic astrology, you look how the sky is now, or how it was exactly when you were born, but in the Western it's calculated from
23 degrees ahead. So all the signs have shifted. 90% of the signs are different because it's a tropical system. I'm not an expert in Western astrology because I studied for some time and it didn't work for me. So I don't pretend to be an expert, but I find that all the signs have shifted 23 degrees out of 30. That's almost a full sign.
So if we talk about this, could we say like there is an error in the Western astrology somehow, like I know you cannot talk about this, but if we talk about
I think they're correctly, sorry, maybe I have to clarify so I don't make enemies. I really respect
we don't put it on you,
Yes, so what I find, yes, that it's not, for me, it's not accurate, but I know that astrologers have different methodologies, and also many of them are very intuitive. And so a combination of special calculations, considering the precession of the equinoxes, etc., they can probably look at a birth chart and see a lot. I believe their methodology is not for everybody, because maybe scientists who can look at it, they can figure out things, etc., especially for mundane astrology and prediction, but not so much on the individual birth chart. Dr. Pillai in 2005 said Western astrology is in a state of confusion, but he has been very diplomatic and never repeated it. Still, I do respect astrologers, and I know they are trying very hard to do what I try to do very hard to understand the future.
Yeah, I understand. But if we do like this, then if we should take myself for an example, then if I will go to a Western astrologer and we say I'm a Cancer, I'm born 15th of July. But then I go to the Vedic astrology and I'm an Uttara Falguni, so I can say I have the Libra, so I'm more of a Libra in
Uttara Falguni, I believe that's a nakshatra between Leo. Yes, so after Cancer,
yeah,
Leo
what I wanted to
or
ask here
even
is
Virgo even.
yeah.
So hugely different, right?
What I mean, but if we say that, then a person comes to and get the same reading from one Western and one Vedic, will there be a slight difference, or will there still be
I
like
cannot say. I cannot say because again, I find that a science includes some kind of verifiable, repeatable experience, right? Or experiment. So when you know from astronomy that the moon is in Gemini, but Western astrology tells me it's in Cancer, and they tell me it's very sensitive moon and it's very intuitive. So I don't know how they proceed from there. I would be very confused, but maybe they have their own method of understanding how things work, because Gemini is a very intellectual sign, very much interested in business, ideas, experimentation, etc. Whereas Cancer is what? The mom, the loving and unconditional love. Incredible intuition. It's the psyche, it's the mind. And so I don't know how they reconciliate those. Okay. So for example, Thanksgiving is going to be in Leo. No, it was in Cancer. So I told people, look, it's going to be in Cancer. So families will get together, would be wonderful, be sensitive with other people's feelings. And when a Western astrologer says it's going to be in Leo, you'll have great time. Like, I don't know how to explain those principles that they happen to see when the planets are in the sky according to the Western science. I have no idea how they do it. Okay.
So, and another thing, last thing about
I don't know enough about this.
Okay, last question about the difference then. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot, because we do full moon ceremonies, and I know I always check the I always check the Aura app to see exactly like the timings, when is the full moon.
I have one too. So the Hora watch, right? You go by the planets as they are according to the Hora watch.
Yeah. And
for
then
those who don't know, we have an app,
the signs.
Hora watch. It's
Hora watch. Yes. So that's an Astroved. I'm also an Astroved astrologer. So I remember that app and I use it all the time.
So like in the app, when I check the full moon, it like when the full moon ends according to the app, the Aura watch app, like it's exactly. Then the Westerners say like this
is the full moon, this very second, a minute later it's over. Exactly. So I created a program for that. It's a mini course called Pensa and Manifesta. It's in Italian, only for the Italian audience for right now. Maybe I will translate it in English. So because I realized, okay, a lot of students say, Lalita, you told me that the full moon started last night or yesterday, and actually on the newspaper or wherever online, they tell me that the moon is right now. And so how do you fix that problem? I don't know, but I know the full moon is a 15th lunar waxing moon phase, right? So you can take it's 22 hours, when 21 usually around that time. And so you can use the huge amount of time for ceremonies, for meditation, for creating exactly the life you want. So it's important to use the correct lunar phase. Also, Western astrology tells you, manifest, yay, it's a new moon, let's manifest, let's take out our crystals. It's dark. There are spirit beings who are sometimes very wicked, or all the ancestors are around you, hanging around and telling you terrible things like you'll be poor, you lose all your money, you'll meet with an accident. This is all. You have to be very conscious, right?
I think this is a part of the Roman creation to make us lose our total connection to ourselves.
Correct. Yeah, I would say if you're into conspiracy theories, you've got it right, but I try not to be, because I want to keep an open mind. But it sounds like it's been seeded in a way that we finally are losing our connection to the divine, and also In the American schools, you cannot find an image of the divine unless there's religious schools, right? If you go to a Catholic school, that's a different story. But in general, 99% of schools don't have any imagery. And you know from neuroscience that looking at an image of Lakshmi, like it's the one behind you, and or Ganesha, like this one, for example, I keep all my pictures of Ganesha around. I love them so much. So I know that just by looking at Ganesha, my intelligence increases and I become more compassionate. So I'm better able to have a meeting and be fair to everybody and consider other people's needs instead of my own, just my own. So it's a synergy of beautiful energy, right? Synergy of different people, different consciousness. And to me, that matters. I don't know about you, but to me, it's the number one.
It's a really important thing of our life. We have pictures of the divine everywhere. I paint them and I print them and I sing them, and it's just like feeding the unconscious and the conscious, the whole system with
saints
the divine.
And gods all the
everything
time. It's like
and even in
there's
nature.
Nothing else to me, because even in Vedic times, Laila, as you said, you paint them, you breathe them, you speak them, you look at them, right? You also do the same with your teachings. So you are an integral part of the divine, and you're not separated. So we lose our ignorance, we lose our limitations, I feel, right? This way, and we're more connected to something higher, and then we create beautiful things and not the monstrosities. I used to be an expert of contemporary art. I studied it for 12 years, and I was on a board, top board in a museum of contemporary art, Chicago Museum of Contemporary Art. I was on the women's board, but I wasn't very satisfied with the exhibits. Everything was so dark, and one day, the final straw, there was a crucifix in urine. And I thought, okay, you can experiment as much as you want, but there's a limit, You don't have to trash the beliefs of the 90%. How many people are Christians on the earth plane? The great majority, right? There are a lot of people. So you don't have to trash other people's beliefs or, like something higher than you to experiment in your artistic method. I just felt, okay, that's enough. Because I didn't like it. It was very dark. Expressionism was very dark. Everything was, and they had lost the figurative art. Whereas when I went to India, everything was so gorgeous. And I grew up with a lot of Renaissance, even Romanesque art, religious art. And I loved it. So that improved my life, I feel, as a child. And feeling that my children didn't get that chance, I was sad. My children were innocent and they didn't see God in the schools. So I talked to them a lot about that. Kind of, I was the only one. My husband is not Catholic, he's Jewish, and he grew up with a very secular family, very intellectual. They all had, lots of degrees and business, etc. So they never really went there. I was the only one talking about God and something higher. And then I was sad about it, but then remember, right, this, that in the Vedic culture, it's the mom is the first guru. So I always felt, no, I should be the father. No, I was wrong. Growing up in the West, I was confused on who is in charge of the higher things, of the morals, the love for something higher and humanity. The mother is. So a mother who doesn't do that perhaps wants to reconsider, because there's a lot of respect for children's rights in our West, but we're actually doing a disservice to them, saying, oh, they will choose when they're old. I will not tell them anything. Well, to me, that's a curse.
Yeah, that's really good. Like we are Hindu, but in school they ask, like, do you want, because we have a different religion than the Catholic, like here in Spain, they assume that we didn't want Anisha to participate, our daughter, she's 5, to participate in the Catholic Christian teachings in school. And I was like, no, I love her to be there. I want her to be here. I want her to be able to learn.
The more the merrier. The more religions, the better. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like I would never stop showing her what, like, our way of connecting to God. it's
Yes,
amazing
yes.
for her to know that there are many ways to connect to God. There's many,
Many names, many
Forms.
nuances, but it's always this. There's one God for all, right? Even in in Hinduism, as far as I know.
But one thing that you said in the beginning here is that the Vedic astrology has helped you so much, and it has helped
Yes.
many, many people. So that's what will be very interesting to dive deeper into, like, how can Vedic astrology help someone? You know, you read a chart, and then what? How do you like
Yes. So,
guide people? How can people benefit?
mhm. So one interesting thing about Vedic astrology is that I went to India all thinking I was a Capricorn, and there was this. I was staying at the Taj Mahal Hotel in Bombay. So that was a long time, early 1980s. And there was an astrologer in the hotel. I didn't tell my parents because they would have said, no, that's all BS. Like, you know, my parents were very intellectual. My mother was a journalist. They were both famous in their field. My mom was a famous influencer, etc. And my dad was a philosopher, and he wrote philosophy books. Okay. So never talk about astrology. In fact, I grew up with hearing in Latin, no, astrology, the planets do not determine your future. And then I learned from another PhD, actually, Dr. Pillai, who said, nothing happens without the planets. Why? They make our consciousness. So my experience with Vedic astrology was, they told me, you have no planets in Capricorn, you're a Pisces ascendant, and your moon is in Aries. Now I was like, wow, that was a shocking thing. And they told me everything about my future, and every one of those things came true. Not because I was influenced. I didn't read them every day. I put them in a book, and I didn't tell my parents to find out either.
Yeah.
So, but then I became a writer. You know, I started to contribute to magazines in Italy, and I didn't want to do that growing up. I thought, I don't want to be like my mother. Yuck, right? Like all children want to have their own path. But then eventually I started to do exactly that, because also there was a prediction for that. And also they told me, you will marry a foreigner and will go and live in a foreign country by a huge body of water. I was like, yeah, sure. And I didn't want to, because I actually like living in Italy, and it was a good life. And I traveled to Europe, I shopped in Europe, it was fun. So I didn't want to go really to a foreign country. I felt, no, that's not for me. And then, of course, my husband is American, and we moved to Chicago, and there's a huge lake that's like an ocean. And I had children there. So I became really American also. I'm an American citizen now. So all those things, we cannot predict if randomly, like, okay, you meet a special person next month. Those are really generalized teachings, but that was very specific. So I did not follow the predictions, but when I saw that they were real, I thought, there is something in this method I need to learn. And when I read my first book, I understood nothing. I knew Western astrology, and I thought, oh no, I'm lost. Now I'm an expert of yoga. I'm an expert of meditation and all these things. And now I don't know Vedic astrology. That was in the 90s. But then I looked deeper and I understood, no, look, you see the ascendant, you understand the person. Once you tell people, look, this is your path. You've been working in science, but actually your path is in teaching, or vice versa. And now you have done something to contribute to a better life for that person. And they usually tell me, yes, that's how it is. I didn't want to be a scientist. I did that to please my parents, and then I actually wanted to do this other thing that's showing in your horoscope. So to me, that's a very practical way of helping people choose what they want. And also, if you want a relationship and the planets say, no, it's not a good time, what do? You cry for 10 years until the planets come. You need the methodology, and you need remedies to fix the planet, that's causing you trouble. And there are many ways to do that in Vedic astrology, because it's remedial. That's what I love, because you don't have to suffer if you don't want to.
Yes,
right? And you can change the timeline.
Yeah, so we can say, like, we have a negative influence of Rahu or Saturn.
Those are the worst. Yes.
Yeah.
But it can be the sun.
do,
For some
you
people, it's
mentioned
the sun.
excuse me, you mentioned remedies, right?
Yes.
So what is a remedy in these terms for people who don't know?
Yes, so remedies will be in a form of mantras. Mantras, we have underestimated them in the West.
Yeah.
Because everything starts within and the way we think. And some people's brains, I found out, repel negativity. Who are they? Millionaires, they have a happy relationship, or they can travel, they don't need to respond to anybody, they do what they want. So that brings a certain level of happiness. And if they want more awareness, they'll choose a spiritual path that resonates with them. So see that simple thing. How do you get a brain that repels negativity? It's very difficult. It's easier to say than doing it. So you do need mantras. Mantras are so I wouldn't even say divine if somebody doesn't want that path. But to me, they are divine forms that change your brain and they literally put you on a different path. Because if you know that your ancestors are sending you all these garbage thoughts and you don't want those thoughts and you're aware of it, then you can use the mantras to change path. And also, for example, abundance thoughts. There were some thoughts I wasn't able to have. Maybe I wanted, like, say, more wealth, right? More money, more success. But I thought, oh, I'm spiritual. That's not for me. Well, the beauty of Vedic astrology is that it shows, no, God is not poor. You can have, the things you need without that being detrimental to your path. So you can actually do something great for the world. And actually, you do need money, don't we all? Like a roof. A lot of spiritual people struggle with that, and they feel guilty.
Yeah.
I have some very spiritual
common in the spiritual, how you say, in the spiritual community over the world. It's very lack of these thoughts of money.
There's a lot of fear around. So that needs to be changed. There's also always a planet that shows why the person doesn't allow himself or herself to get that level of abundance, so they can help other people. So if most spiritual people want to help, right?
Yeah.
I have a student who is very good. He's a very smart man, but he's always saying, oh, I feel guilty about meditating for that. What should I do? So look, there's this planet that is doing this in your birth chart, that actually once you chant the mantra for that planet, you'll fix that planet. Or you can do homas. Homas are yagyas, or I don't know, there's another name for that.
There's like fire ceremonies.
Fire ceremonies that can really shift, and because they appease the planet at least by 20%. Dr. Pillai says, well, maximum 20%, but I've seen more than that. Maybe in my case, because I really had a belief.
And there's one more interesting thing is that we've been through many spiritual masters like Dr. Pillai and others, now our own guru Paramahamsa Vishwananda, and everyone is saying the most important thing is the mantra.
Yes. So
that do your mantra. So there is not a coincidence that enlightened saints are saying the same thing, the importance of mantra.
Yes, that one thing. It seems like a simple thing, but mantra protects the mind from what? From the craziness of the mind.
Yeah.
Babaji says, Dr. Pillai says that we're all lunatics. Why? The moon brings all these emotions, thoughts, past, now in the future. Now, yesterday, this guy told me that. And now, 3 years ago, I got sick, or 5 years ago, I lost my job. What are these? They're useless thoughts, right? But they're recycled and we're bombarded. We have the negativity bias. The negativity bias is our worst enemy, because we always expect something negative because of past experiences or our ancestors' experiences. Say, for example, that someone's dad lost their business and they invested everything in it, the family belongings and all their time, and they were never at home because of it. Then they lost it. The children are traumatized. Even if that happened to the grandfather, the great-grandfather, it's in the genes. We feel that fear. So that needs to be changed. I like Osho. Osho said, why? So somebody asked him, why are spiritual people poor? And he said, because they're spiritual. So that doesn't need to be like saying, All right. So it doesn't need to be a life sentence, though.
Yeah.
It can really change and be more balanced. We need to be more balanced. The spiritual people need more money, and people who are not spiritual need to look a little higher. Otherwise, it's what Dr. Pillai calls food, money, and sex. And there's only so much fun you can have from there, right? I mean, food, money, and sex. I mean, there's got to be more in this life, or otherwise you have to come back. You have to come back and do the same things and realize, okay, I'm not just flesh and blood. There's more here.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we don't change our current, how you say, mind state, or the karmic contracts or the karma that we have now, we need to come back again and redo it once again.
God forbid.
That's why it's, if we go here now, if we talk like this, then the first we have to do is we have to do a chart, right? We have to see our planets where they are, and then we can find out, okay, this one, this one, this one, and then we can do mantras for it. We can do fire ceremonies, and we can do
ceremonies. Pujas. You do pujas, no?
Yeah. And then we can like stop the negative influence from the planets, and that's pretty amazing.
Yes, that's very important.
Something that we can do, right?
There was a time when I was a yoga teacher, I had a lot of extra time, which I don't have anymore. I have a schedule, like constantly I have either a call, or now I have a beautiful podcast. So my life is always on the go, right? But before I could do 12 hours a day of pujas to the planets.
Wow.
My life was divine. I was always in a higher state. It was so beautiful. And actually, I do miss the lifestyle. But we have a schedule, we have a family, and there are things to do. So I don't complain, because I love what I do and what the people I meet. They're all, the best people in the world. Dr. Pillai also says, I'm biased. I love spiritual people. They are my favorite people. And we're sustaining the planet.
Definitely. We have a very important role. And
for those of you that don't know what a puja is, it's a ceremony. It's like you create a relationship to the saint or the deity that you do the puja to. So it's really interesting that you're speaking about doing pujas to planets, because tell us more, like, are the planets like individuals? Do they have lives in this life?
They're beings. They're beings. Yeah. One day I was shocked. Do you know how sometimes you come across some weird videos on YouTube? Like, okay, you think these people are a little kooky, but then something resonates. So there were some people talking to a former military who was now 85, very old, and he was saying, we military know that the planets are alive and conscious. And I said, wait a minute, what did he say? And I went back. He said, yeah, so that's exactly what Vedic astrology says. They are beings. They have a three-dimensional body, anthropomorphic. So they look like us. They're beings. They have a crown. So they're both what we see in the sky, but also there is a being in it that we cannot see with our naked eye, but you can sense them. And spiritual people like you, I'm sure I've seen, I've had, either a sensation or a knowingness that there was someone there, or you see them in a vision. I do sometimes see them in a vision, and they speak to me. And Dr. Pillai, not to brag, but I'm bragging probably, that Vedic astrologers can negotiate with the planets, and they're not average people, so they can connect. Because you have the mantra, you too, right? Because you have a mantra, you have an appreciation of the being, and there's parasparam. You pray to the being, and they, like in the Bhagavad Gita, and they have to help you. So it's a reciprocal, loving relationship.
And now one more interesting thing is that when we have saints around us, when we have a spiritual master, they can also go in and move the planets. They have this power also, right? And they
can, they can move them.
And they also
Dr. Pillai does that for us, yes. So he looks at your chart and he says, this Saturn is really going to cause this and this, and they can see what it will cause, which is can be dangerous, for example. And he can negotiate with Saturn and say, Saturn, don't do this. And Saturn may resist and say, no, this is my job, let me do my job. But he can say, but he will pray to Saturn, and Saturn will concede something, they would say, okay, I will stop torturing these people for maybe 10 years. I don't know. So,
Yeah, I was
you can get
listening. I
out.
was also listening to another master. He don't live today. His name was Paramahamsa Hariharananda. He was a disciple of Sri Yukteswar, and he was also initiated
Oh,
by
wow.
Yogananda in Kriya Yoga. And he was saying
Oh, I
that,
love Yogananda. Yeah.
yeah, we also do that. And what he was saying was, when we do our Kriya, we are changing our astrology signs every day.
Oh,
There was
okay.
also an
That's interesting. I never heard
interesting.
that. That's
There was also an
beautiful.
interesting point of it, like when we're doing spiritual practice,
Mhm.
we are automatically shifting a little bit of
Wow, that's great
negativity.
to know.
And yeah, I've
I love
noticed it myself. I noticed, like, when I'm reading
you
the
know,
astrology, it's not the same anymore as it was a few years ago. It was always accurate. And now I can see that is a little bit
so
shifting.
you can feel the connection, right?
Yeah. So
It's
that's also
important
very
to know
interesting.
your horoscope. Very
Yeah,
important,
we
right?
can send it to you later, so you can
Oh yeah, I would love to. Yes, yes.
And also, we have a lot of interesting questions for you,
Yeah.
because where the world are, where the world is going, financial crashes, world
Yes, we are
big
in a
war,
difficult time. Mhm. We
So
are
we have one
getting
question,
crisis.
and that is, people wonder, will there be a financial crash? Can we see that in the science?
I also
You-
know that what you say then can become true, especially for spiritual people, because we have more awareness. So we need to be very, very careful
So
what we say,
important that you say
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yes. So the likelihood is very high, and the planets in I don't want to sugarcoat, but 2023, the planets will show that there can be a period like that was in the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Additionally, there'll be huge changes at the technological level, perhaps new ways of doing things, like financially, and I don't want to be specific about that, because we can change the timeline. Spiritual people will be helped. That's what Dr. Pillai has revealed, and I confirm that, because we can jump timelines. So for us, it will be an accelerated path to illumination, to enlightenment, or it can be getting stuck in a situation where there's digital money, you hate it, and you feel very sorry for yourself. Whereas we have infinite creativity, we can find many ways to help each other and also to grow spiritually at the same time. So the planets are there, yes. So there is a danger of financial crisis globally, kind of like, as I said, in 1929. And also there is a very difficult conjunction of Jupiter with Rahu beginning around the end of April. That will be something I don't like, because in an individual chart, a combination of Jupiter and Rahu always shows an obsession of some kind with that topic or that goal, which is fine. It can be shifted in a higher way. Sometimes it leads the individual to manipulate a lot and to lie even, but when it's global for everybody, then it's serious, because Aries is kind of aggressive as a sign, unless the person has high morals and high ethics. So Aries, Jupiter loses with Rahu, loses that wisdom and that love, that positivity, that desire to improve life and to bring something higher. So it's more like Artha. Artha means a path to achieving material goals. And especially with Rahu. Rahu cuts corner when it's not in a spiritual placement. It can be like leaders will be troublesome. Maybe they'll fight with each other. There's a danger of, there are lots of broken diplomatic relations, which we have already seen in an eclipse in October.
Yeah.
That was a dangerous eclipse. And as I said on another podcast, actually, I noticed that some leaders that are here now are perfect for what's coming. So they're really tough people, like in the UK, no names, but everybody knows the Prime Minister was, unfortunately, was nominated on the day of the eclipse. And maybe they don't know astrology, probably they don't. But that was a dangerous day to nominate a Prime Minister. And so UK is a big country, so I hope that, you know, we pray that nothing bad will happen, but this person has a lot of all these planets in Aries and Leo, Vedic chart. And that's a lot of leadership there. So very tough person. And very intelligent for sure. Yes, tell me.
He has a very cool name, right?
He has a cool name, Indian, right?
Yeah, Krishna.
He does?
I think his name was Krishna or something like this. I was like, whoa.
The current name is a little different, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know.
It was funny when I saw it, like, whoa.
He looks like a very brilliant person. He dominates with his brilliancy wherever he goes. But hopefully, you know, his job will be a good job and not a tough job on the population.
So I think you mentioned something really, really important. Like I got this energy, like really strong energy, beautiful confirmation in my body when you said, like, the spiritual people, we can actually, like, what we speak out, what we believe in, can change the outcome. Like, what will happen?
We have that power. That's why our words are more powerful than average people, because they have less awareness. They focus more on their goals and maybe their love and their relationships and family, etc. So I'm saying we all have the power, but speaking and manifesting is very, very big now. And as people become aware of that, they also have a responsibility to speak more auspiciously. I don't say any more things that I was afraid of. I try to avoid that, because I realized that there is a big danger that, and actually, didn't Dr. Pillai do a video recently that said exactly that? He was thinking, a car that comes from behind and hits us. And actually that happened. So he said, we have to be very careful with the mind, because he was protected, that nothing happened. There was no damage to the cars or to the people in the cars, but it happened exactly as he visualized as he was driving. So whether it was a premonition or it was something that you think and manifest, it's debatable. Right, it's arguable. I don't know if the chicken comes first or the egg. We have to be very careful. We have that power to manifest what we say. It's called Vak. Vak sound. Vak is Goddess Saraswati's power. It's a CD. She speaks and manifests.
Cool. We have a very interesting question here that we would like to ask you from a guy.
So Susananda Komra is asking, I would love to learn her perspective on the upcoming Saturn and Pluto transits. What she predict will happen globally between now and 2026. If she has any experience to share about how to align one's own self with the transit.
It's an awesome question. I will try my very best, because I'm a Vedic astrologer, but Dr. Pillai has empowered us to use also the outer planets. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So Pluto has a bad name, but it doesn't deserve it. Pluto is like Yama. Yama is the god of death, right? But he's also Yamaraja, the god of justice, the equalizer. So we pray to Pluto in the way we pray to Yama. There is a mantra, we can say Om Yamaye Namaha, to appease Pluto. Pluto brings science, Pluto brings scientific intelligence, and also just knowledge in general. So it is a tough energy. We don't want to become like Atlantis, right? We disappear in the ocean. So Saturn is already the taskmaster and brings a lot of work. In Aquarius, the sidereal zodiac, I'm not talking Aquarius. I'm sure pretty soon we'll hear that Saturn is in Pisces. No. If you look in the sky, Saturn will be in the constellation of Aquarius, in different nakshatras. Right now, Saturn is in Dhanishta. So with those fixed stars, you know where the planets are exactly, to the minute, to the second even. So Saturn in Dhanishta will bring more wealth for those who are in technology, maybe through crypto, I don't know if it's sustainable, but for now it's like that. There'll be social unrest, problems with population saying no more of this, no more of that. It happens when Saturn is in Aquarius, and usually there's a cracking down, right? So with Pluto, I don't per se look at that conjunction as a problem, because the outer planets, sometimes they don't work that way through conjunction. But I know Western astrology is big on seeing conjunctions with the outer planets. I haven't seen them working reliably, but I do know that Pluto in a sign has particular effects, especially collectively through generations. So Pluto in Aquarius will increase the energy of Saturn. It will be a little tougher, I believe, because it's Yama, right? The god who teaches through equalizing, through death and new destinies. But I like the fact, for example, that Bharani Nakshatra is ruled by Yama and Venus, and actually it project to fruition. No, it doesn't bring an end. That's why Bharani people are very successful and they get fame, etc., because they bring projects to fruition. They can complete. It's like a gestation, a mother having a baby and bringing the baby into the world. So it's not a bad thing. But again, we have a lot of responsibility on how we read these situations and what we make of them, right? That's what Dr. Pillai keeps saying over and over. 3 Nobel Prizes, quantum physicists said that the universe doesn't exist, and they proved it in 2022, so just a little time ago. So that should change our lives. That all of a sudden we say, okay, until I look at that particle, I actually don't even know if it's a particle or a wave, and I can decide what it is. My teacher, Deepak Chopra, hugely interested in this. He always told us, you receive a box, you can decide if it's a gift, something you want, or something terrible happening to you, like a bomb. So I think I want a gift and not a bomb. So I'm going to be very conscious as I see this box and deciding what I'm going to see. So we spiritual people need to uplift the world, basically, and be very conscious, or at least focusing on ourselves and our own personal development, our spiritual growth. Okay, so that's my advice. Because tough times will come for sure, but also very good things for humanity. More consciousness, more awareness of how we can control our lives and creating new things that are really good for the world, because Satya Yuga is coming for sure. Okay.
Yeah. And it's our chance or possibility to really rise and realize our power, the power that human beings have. Like if we wouldn't experience all the negative or the turmoil, like we could continue just sleeping, go to work, and never realize that we are really here, like our passions, what we can, that we have the power to change.
You're absolutely right, and I agree totally on that. We have this opportunity and we need to exercise it, otherwise it will go to waste. So let's do a good job. Yeah, let's try very hard not to be.
And I think it's good, to bring this message out, how powerful we are and how powerful our intention, our thoughts are, that we can really
very powerful
and, control our thoughts to the right destination. I think it's extremely powerful and important.
We live in interesting times. I think the Chinese say, when they curse someone, they say, may you have an interesting year. Why not? We don't want interesting. But actually, how do we grow? We don't grow when we go to a birthday party, enjoy a piece of cake or talking to friends all the time. No, we grow when we have to rise up to our best potential, our highest potential. And I remember even in a small way that's relatable, hopefully. Like I remember when there was a Sandy hurricane coming to New York City, I used to go to a gym where everybody was very rude. They were, I don't want to judge, but they were all wealthy women. They were kind of short tempered, and they were like rude and indifferent, like this. I used to balance, do a yoga pose, waiting for the teacher. They would drop weights near me to make me fall. Like they were really mean.
Wow.
Okay. They were really mean people for some obscure reason. But anyway, maybe because there was a cemetery not too far away. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to judge again. But what happened the day of the hurricane? So imagine if I was at the gym at 10 a.m. and the hurricane was coming at 3 p.m. So just a few hours later. And everybody was so nice. And they were like passing their mats. No, you, please go. No, you go. They were all so sweet and humble and really, really kind. And I thought, what the heck happened here? It's amazing. I love this. But that's because they were really scared. And they were, they just were not so self-centered. And I've seen that also as a yoga teacher. Also, I want to ask you the same. Briefly, I was teaching yoga and I got a little delegation of my students coming to me and said, we don't want to meditate. We're kind of not interested in that. Okay. I said, okay, so we'll just do the asanas. And this was like 20 years ago when I started to teach yoga. And I said, okay, let's skip the meditation. I don't impose ever. So we just did 5 minutes of relaxation, but then Katrina, the great tsunami came, right? Indonesia. Right after there was Katrina. And another delegation of students, they didn't all come to me. They sent a little group. And I said, we want to do meditation again because we're really scared. And I said, okay, let's meditate together. Yeah. And at that point, they were very open-minded. Incense, everything I wanted. Shiva chants, no problem. So all the ego is really our worst enemy, isn't it? Yeah, and also judgment is very difficult. So have you had any experience like this?
No, I've never been asked to skip the meditation part.
But everyone wants to do business with God. Right? Like our master say also, you always want to do business with God. You talk to God when you need money. You talk to God when you have a problem. Otherwise, it's not fine. So I think it's showing like the importance of really know who we are, to really find ourselves, because then we can be more humble and great to other people and really
loving. Love is really simple.
Yeah, and see the beauty in talking to God, even when we're not in despair and really needed something. Like, see the beauty.
Ideally, we should be like that, right? Where we all pray for something, even for peace. Even the Buddha wanted enlightenment. So it's okay to ask, I believe. But we shouldn't be just transactional. You give me this, then I love you, God. It's not going to work.
Yeah, but to go back.
You need the experience.
Yeah, and to go back to what you were saying also is, I can see also this shift. People who were not so interested maybe 5 years ago, suddenly now want to take class or want to learn more meditation or have.
Yes, that's happening everywhere.
That is happening on a great scale,
On a great scale, because people understand the future is bleak and uncertain. So let's find something better. But not just the fear, I think. It's just that the energy has changed on the earth plane. And because we're going into Satya Yuga, first we'll see a lot of fear and devastation, perhaps, I don't know. But Dr. Pillai said that there will be big changes on the earth plane, also, I guess, climate. I mean, natural disasters. Look what happened in Turkey. I've been very sad, right? I've never heard, well, since the tsunami, probably, that many people being killed in an earthquake. So definitely things are happening, but it's up to us whether we use what's happening for our destruction or for our spiritual growth and creating something fantastic for everybody. We have to tap into our power and stay very focused.
Yeah, definitely.
So any like specific mantra that can support us during this time?
This transition. Ganesha is the most relatable being. He came to me. I didn't even know him. I was I was working as an executive in PR, and I wasn't really in Hinduism. I've been to India many times because I loved it, but not because I was a Hindu. But one day I woke up and I loved him so much, and I felt, what's going on here? Why do I love Ganesha? Why is he coming into my mind continuously like this? So I thought, okay, let me go and get a cassette. This was in the 90s, so there were no digital devices. So I took this cassette, and as I was going to work, I was listening to it, and I loved it, and I chanted along. And I also, on the way back, and for the rest of the day, I thought of Ganesha. Then the next morning, on the cover of the New York Times, there was a huge picture with a big title. Ganesha statues are drinking milk all over the world. And I thought, wow, it's interesting. Just yesterday, I think I was feeling that, as it was happening, the consciousness was so pure around the world. A lot of people, millions of people thinking of Ganesha and praying to Ganesha, and those who are, I think, receptive, right? The receptivity has to be there. If you're on some kind of shift and your planets are bringing that, then you're lucky, and then you get to tune into the best and not the worst that's happening. That will always happen, actually. The divine design includes good and bad, right? We need to. In Satya Yuga, there's very little bad, almost nothing. We're going there. So the worst moments, I think we can change to Ganesha and also Shiva, I think, because Shiva is so powerful and is neutral to everybody, even Ravana. So if you feel, oh, I've done so many bad things in the world, don't feel bad. You can always correct your path. And even Shiva doesn't discriminate if you pray to Shiva. You can pray to Jesus. He's a very loving being. He's very much active. Like when I do meditation with Dr. Pillai in his presence, often Jesus comes. And I never think of Jesus. I get sad thinking of Jesus. When I was a child, I remember that I used to play with him. And he was a happy being. And then I forgot all about him. But with Dr. Pillai, because he does something to you, I don't know what he does. He just, I don't know, everything shifts around him. And I used to see Jesus so close and was jumping every time in meditation. Then I would forget about Jesus again. Another time, then it would come back like an hour later. And I thought, okay, I have to pay attention then. So I started to pray to him again. And now I'm more comfortable. And then I remember that as a child, I played with him. So I cried and I thought, oh, it was so beautiful. So now I'm not scared of him anymore. Because who wants to suffer? Who wants to think of the passion of his suffering and his
that's the thing, especially here in Spain. Like Jesus was an amazing saint, an amazing yogi.
Yes.
Let's learn from like what he was teaching. But many times here, it's just the suffering. They just focus on.
It's the messing with our heads.
The message is not
the suffering and not on the resurrection, the light body. And the thing I liked about Jesus, that's why when I was a child, I was the only one in my family reading the Gospels over and over again at my grandma's house. I love the stories of the miracles, and I reread them like countless times. And that's all I care about. I knew about miracles. I felt it from another life, like, now I know from other lives that I knew about the miracles. We can all do them. And that's what Jesus said. But that's not what they teach you at Sunday school.
No,
right?
I will do better.
They tell you something else. They tell you God is looking at you, you're going to be punished and go to hell. I mean, they don't tell you, look here, you have all this power. You turn into light in a second, in a blink of an eye, and you can do miracles and you can have all these beautiful things. No, Jesus also blessed people. Dr. Pillai talked about it. In Aramaic, be blessed means be rich. So when he was blessing people, saying, be blessed, you poor, ye poor, he actually meant be wealthy, ye poor. He was blessing them. It was a technology to give them money because they needed everything. They were very poor. So he was blessing them to become rich. The way Babaji, Dr. Pillai blesses us okay, God bless, you know, hope this will bring you the wealth you need, because that's the number one problem right now around the world. People don't have enough to live. And now we have new refugees, we have new people who are homeless. Look in Turkey and Syria. I mean, don't they need help and money? You know, we have all these governments saying these people can receive help and those can't. That's horrible.
It's all
That's horrible.
It's all of this it's a part of the false matrix to keep people down. Like, because if people are struggling to not have food, not have roof over their heads, like how are they going to explore into spirituality and realize they can make miracles like Jesus? Like, there's no time for that.
They're supposed to know. Last night, my husband and I were laughing because he knows very much my ideas, right? We were looking at this video that somebody was doing miracles. He was healing even terminal diseases, and even turning around, somebody was fatally hit by a car. So he healed, but meanwhile, he was getting very weak. And he was told, if you continue to heal these people, you'll die. That's the biggest lie I've ever seen in a movie. You don't lose anything when you, because the energy is not even yours to give. You're part of that energy. The energy goes through you. In Reiki, we don't think, oh, I'm going to heal someone. The energy comes through me, and so I can help transfer it to that person, right? I'm just a vehicle. Even Jesus said you can do miracles. He didn't say you're going to die for it. You're not going to have the passion and be crucified unless some governments decide you have to, that if you heal someone, you'll be crucified, but nobody else. There's no reason for us to be afraid of helping others. It's the other way around. We become very powerful when we want to use our power for good. All the divine beings help us when we help others. They love us more.
We can connect more to the divine and love when we help and serve.
Yes.
Definitely.
Within that spirit, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You're very powerful.
It's very powerful. I have another interesting thing. We were listening around a year ago. We were listening to another master. He's called Vidya Shishananda. He's with something called Hansaveda Fellowship. I don't know if you know about him.
I'm very ignorant of all these groups.
Yeah, a monk and a Kriya Yoga master, and also a Vedic astrologer.
I've done Kriya in the Babaji path, you know, the one from Paramahansa Yogananda for 3 years. I did 3 hours a day of Kriyas. Wow. And I think that changed my planets, as you were saying before, because Kriya can change your path. And that's how I was blessed that soon after I met Dr. Pillai. So I met my guru, and I had the Kundalini experience with him the first time I met him. My spinal column was shaking so much, but it was very blissful. It was very peaceful. Yeah. And I didn't think anything, oh, he's going to be my guru. No, nothing like that. It was very calm, very content, and very blissful. And it lasted the whole day. Even after the seminar, I will continue to feel that way. So I know that things change once you shift.
But what I wanted to come to was that this master, he was also a Vedic astrologer, and he was talking about where we were going to, like 2035.
I have my own calculations for that too.
Yes, and he was also saying one interesting thing, because if we go back around 5,000 years ago, we have a very high being here called Krishna, right?
Yes.
It was a very big war.
Who existed, it was real. We have
the Mahabharata war. It was like, and he was saying that the signs for 5,000 years ago, as during when Krishna was here during the Mahabharata war, is similar or the same as coming until 2000.
There is the possibility of a global war, so World War III. That's always been there, but more in the future years, the next 2-3 years, we have to watch out.
Yeah,
and also there are some predictions for that.
Yeah, he said it also in the Middle East and some part of Asia in the coming years will be most.
We're at risk for sure. So what I've seen is through calculations, Vedic astrology calculations, two things, bad news and good news. First, the bad news. I saw that So there is a risk of a conflict. There is a Swami Ramalingam. So I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Know.
So Swami Ramalingam predicted that he would return in January 2024. So for Thai Pusham that time, he will return to the world because I guess we will need him. And so those who want to get a light body at that time, they can. And also another prediction, the planets will be aligned in a way that wisdom will be temporarily lost before we return into Satya Yuga. So there's a possibility of a huge conflict like the Mahabharata. And we know that after Kurukshetra's battle, we still have a lot of radiation, right? So every country now is rushing to get these bombs, nuclear weapons. They're obsessed with them. They feel it's the only way to be safe, but that's the only way we can really destroy this planet and our galaxy. But anyway, hopefully some common sense will return. So there's that danger. But what I've seen is that there's a prediction in one of the Puranas, I don't remember which one, that when the planets will be aligned in a certain way, like the sun will be here, like I think Gemini and the moon in Cancer, or vice versa, like I don't remember. But anyway, the planets will be aligned in a certain way. And according to my calculation, that will happen in 2038. So that's a time when finally there is a true possibility of Satya Yuga returning on a larger scale. And that may very well be, because after a war, usually what happens, people are more careful, right? They don't want to conflict, so they become less egoistic and they focus more on their own well-being and also on the well-being of other people. So hopefully we're evolving and all this rushing to the weapons.
Do you think, like we are talking about here as Satya Yoga, and today in the spiritual community there is a lot of talking about the fifth dimension, the fifth density.
Yes, that's all true. I agree.
Could this be like the same thing, like when we are ascending, we are moving up?
Absolutely.
Like on our way
We ourselves will be different, and we can only do it through love. It sounds like, like people minimize, they judge, they underestimate. Oh, you crystal people. So what? I like crystals too, but I also like statues of the divine. They are great technologies. Crystal. So even if people just pray through crystals, it's better to pray with something than nothing.
Yeah, we have here during the full moon, we were activating the water taste.
Why not? It's a device to record energy. So why not? But we do have a heightened awareness of how things really are going. So we have a responsibility to stay in love. Dr. Pillai, it's not like the flower children, they dismiss us like, oh, goody two shoes. No, love is the greatest technology. God is love, but also Babaji says, love itself is God. So we need to forgive everybody. That's what I've been doing the last few years. I think it was destined for that reason. I lost both my parents in just a few years. In about 5 years, I lost both my parents. They passed away. And I had some problems with some relatives and, inheritances and all that. I don't want to be specific, but I had forgive a lot of people because of that, because I lost a few $1 million. And at the time, I really wanted the money because it was my parents' money. But I had to work on myself to forgive and be more loving. And I decided not to go after them legally. I had a friend from Chicago, a friend of family, my husband's a friend who was a lawyer and is also a politician, and he knew this is huge lawyer in Italy. I could have easily gone after them and get my money back, but I decided not to. And that's because of forgiveness. If each one of us will forgive at least one person in their lives, the whole planet will shift. Yeah. Whether it's like against a country or a religion or in a family, it doesn't matter.
Beautiful.
We need to work very hard on that because it's the most difficult.
Because sometimes we think that we are forgiving, but we are not. It's
Right.
sometimes it can
You
be
have to
very hard to
be
understand
honest.
if we
Yeah.
haven't really forgive the person.
Yes.
And some things I always tell people is like, if you're still here in the mind with your own argument with that person, you're probably not totally done with it.
That's probably true. Yeah, I think you're right.
People want to connect with you, Lalita. Like they
Yes.
want an astrology reading or they want to know more. How can they reach out to you?
Shrimp Lab is my site. And also I have a download, 5 minutes to rewire your mind to manifest everything you want.
Wow.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, we will put the links and everything below, and we want to thank you so much. And we can do a follow-up in the future and go
my
deeper.
pleasure,
It
really.
will be amazing, and also talk more
Wonderful.
about the light body and Ramalingam.
Yes, let's talk
That would
about
be
that.
very
Yes.
interesting to hear more about. And thank you so much. And for everyone,
Thank you so much.
find out the chart, do the mantras, do the remedies with puja and yagnas, and do the Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha is for Ganesh.
And forgive. And be in love.
Om Namah Shivaya for Shiva. Yes.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. And thank you so much for taking your time with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.